Hello there. Today is episode 6 of I'm Losing My Mind, and so should you. I've been home too long and currently losing my mind, so just give me some time. I'm here with some people.
Are you okay?
Alexis.
Yeah, but who else? Who else is in here?
I don't know. Consider it with your attitude at the moment.
I know, man. It's
Jordan.
hard, bro.
My name's
Yup.
Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, and it's me. E.
Okay. So, we are going to be talking today about when's the last time you've read a book? And be honest, it's been a while. I haven't read books in a long time. I read articles and I read tutorials but in documents, but I haven't read a book. Books don't interest me. I'm more of a comic book guy. But people don't believe comic books are real books, so what's the point?
We're
What
gonna
are
get into
comic
some
books?
conversations on what classifies a book, eh?
Yeah. Go around the class, children, and express your ability to read. Have you?
Oh. Gosh, my last book I read was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the complete works, and I don't know. I feel like I finished reading that before me and Alexis started dating. So
For
that's like
sure.
probably like 5-6 years ago.
Oh my god.
At least 5, possibly more.
Yo.
But I read a lot of manga, so we could classify that as reading. There are words I have to go through. There's just
That is
pictures
true.
in addition to it.
Word content
Eric.
might not be the I think sometime last year, I think in October,
Yo,
What was it?
yeah.
it was what was it? Yuzo Monogatari,
Is that a book?
the
Like
light
no
novel,
pictures?
no pictures, yeah. It's a
Okay.
light novel, so yeah.
Okay. I just had to make sure you said a Japanese name of what I'm pretty sure is like a manga, and I was like, nah,
I
fam.
mean,
You ain't
yeah, it's
gonna
based on a manga series,
y-
but there's a light
yeah,
novel series
you can't
that I
slide that in.
read. You know, we're gonna put that.
Loophole.
All right. Well
And
then.
Alexis.
And the last book that I read, I just finished it on Friday, and it was We Own the Sky by Luke Allnut.
Hold up. Hold up. Hold the phone. You read books?
Yes.
Yo.
Pretty much back to back. I just started Big Little Lies.
Okay, so we have an outlier here. Excuse me, how does it feel to read books?
I enjoy it quite a bit. I like it. It helps me go to sleep at night to read a book rather than to watch a TV show. So
So when you read the pages, do you see the characters act out the stuff in your head, or is it just reading?
yeah, I definitely. It's like watching a movie in my head when I read.
Okay. Um, when they make the live action adaptations of said books, are you ever upset when the character you envision in your head isn't what the main character or characters ended up looking like?
No, I'm not too picky about that kind of thing. I definitely have been reading a lot of books just because I know that they are already made as a film or a TV series kind of thing,
Oh,
lately, and, I'm not too picky because I understand when I read a book, like, it took me how many hours to get through the whole books, like, they can't get everything into a film, some people get really picky about that stuff. I don't find myself getting upset about those things.
right, right, right. That's understandable.
Yeah.
So, for the person who hasn't read a book in 5 years, what are books to you? What is a book? What is?
Blackwell.
I
Oh
thought he was asking you.
He
no.
said
Person
to the
that
person who
hasn't read a
hasn't
book in
read in
5 years.
5 years.
Oh. Well, you see, what had happened was,
Mm,
well, I mean, I have very random things that I like can get into, and I have a hard time getting into most of the other books that I find, and so I don't. It's hard for me to read something if I'm not like immediately into it.
right.
Especially when there's, like, no other book that's written the same way as
Especially when the
Hitchhiker's Guide.
best author in the world has died, and I've read all of his works. So what's
Dang.
the point anymore?
When's the last time you actively tried to find a new novel to read?
Actively?
Yeah.
Since he read Hitchhiker's Guide.
No, that's not true. While I was working at my previous job, I started reading. Ooh, I don't know what the series is called. It's in the other room next to Alexis, but it's like an assassin book, with magic and stuff in it. That was decent, and I have book 1 and book 2 of it. Was it like The Way of Shadows
The
or
Way of
something?
Shadows and Shadow's Edge looks like the other book.
Yeah. And like I kind of got into those, but I just petered off because I was like I could do other things during this
Okay.
time that I would find more enjoyable than reading this.
Well, to Alexis, yo, I'm really all out of it today. What the mess? Okay, yeah, to Alexis, what is that like defining book for you? What book would you recommend being like, yo, this book made me feel something. It changed my outlook. Something just what's that defining book that you would recommend to somebody?
Um, it's a little hard because everyone's into their own kind of thing,
That is
but,
true.
one book I think my favorite books that I've read in the last couple months is, Normal People by Sally Rooney. Um, it's located in Ireland and more specifically Dublin, which is where me and Jordan went, and, on my first trip outside of the US, and so, um, it's kind of a weird story, but I think it has good life lessons about love and life, making life decisions about your future.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, and they're getting
Eric,
ready to make a film or something. It
nice.
is about to come out on Hulu for it.
Ooh. Eric, what would be your defining book?
Ooh. I'm gonna hit you with there are no defining books. Like, unfortunately,
Oh.
books to me just don't. They're more interesting in medias that a book just can't hit
Mm.
as hard for me. So I can't recommend any book.
Blackwell.
I mean, it does depend largely on what you like. I'm a big nerd, so all the magic concepts are like super important, or like just humorous writing's pretty important. And Douglas Adams, I mean, it's not specifically magic, but it's just completely nonsensical shenanigans. So I end up reading like The Hitchhiker's Guide is probably like the greatest book ever written, and it covers like a super large range of different topics and stuff like that, while also being like really humorous. So that's kind of like my go-to suggestion for everyone who says, "What books do you read?"
Understandable. I think to me, and this is a cop out, my favorite author is Brian Lee O'Malley, the creator of Scott Pilgrim. I love all of his comic books, and just because they all have like that sprinkle of existentialism in them, and I just kind of enjoy that. And I enjoy his art style and the comics he put out.
I didn't
So,
even know that that was a comic. I've seen the
um,
movie.
yeah, it started out as a comic book. The 6 volumes, all really
Hmm.
awesome. Get into a little bit more in depth. And you also realize that Scott's not good in the story either. He's kind of a jerk too, which
Yeah.
isn't really seen as much in the movie.
No,
Because
you get a bit of it from the
yeah,
movie. I
you
mean,
get a
he kind
little
of like discredits like what because like he is dating the Asian
the high
Mhm.
schooler.
lady in the
Yeah,
movie. Yeah,
the high schooler.
Yeah. So he is like dating someone while trying to get with like another girl and like completely like avoids his girlfriend and like
Yeah.
doesn't pay any attention to her. So he's definitely not like a hero by any means.
Yep. Then he goes crazy. Then she goes crazy and then tries to murder Ramona, which is kind of cool too.
Well, you know,
Yeah. I
if
mean,
he's got to deal with some crazy exes, so does she.
so that being said, do you think it's okay that people sometimes just read comic books? Like, you realize, I mean, I guess it's not as much of a stigma now, but like, is reading okay when it's just reading? Like, do you have to read a book to like say, oh, I'm a reader? Like, can you just be like, no, like, I spend my time reading articles about the news or, science stuff? Like, does it have to be a literary book for you to be considered a reader?
I don't think so. I don't think it has to specifically be a novel. And even comic books are considered to be graphic novels, so it's not. I don't consider that to be outside of the realm of reading, like sitting down and reading a book. But I think reading articles and keeping yourself. Um, I don't think it just has to be a book for you to be well read. I think reading the news and keeping yourself up to date on things
Yeah, I
I think,
agree.
is, yeah.
I
I
used
think you got.
to. Hmm?
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say that for my goal last year, I was gonna try and read like a news article a day, vis-a-vis Reddit's like world news or politics and stuff like that. And like I would read like an article a day and just realize, wow, our world's really sad. But I wanted to get that information in my head, so I wasn't a big dumb and didn't know anything about what's happening in the world around me. But reading the world around me is really depressing.
And
Yeah.
I was just gonna drop in there that like, so if you read articles and things like that, then that's more of an informational gathering thing, and some people consider being well read more of an ability to sit there and use your brain in like more like abstract thought processes and things like that, or more like reading works of fiction because then it's like an art form and your ability to appreciate art in that form. Which I mean, art's a pretty subjective thing, so
Mm,
Yeah, I can see that.
you
I mean,
know,
you go look at English majors and they'll tell you what's a good book and what's not a good book, but that's like going up to art critics and they're like, "This isn't art." It's like, well, it
Oh,
is.
yeah. I what really sparked my starting to read, books more this year has been joining a Facebook group, and there's, like, 20,000 people in that group, so
oh
there's
my
there's
gosh.
all kinds of differing opinions, but it's funny when people are always like, "Hey, what did you think of this book?" And there's so many, there's book snobs and things, and people just like what they like, and so there's just always, you
Like,
know
how can you be a book snob? Isn't the whole purpose of reading books is just to be able to read them? How the heck are you a book snob?
Oh, yes, people get upset about, if a storyline is predictable,
It's
um
like how people get bored or like critical of TV shows. It's like, "Oh, I
mhm,
True.
saw that coming," or "Wow, this is getting repetitive." Like people get like that about like books, and if they're written by different authors and things, but they find it repetitive, then that's usually like whatever one they read first becomes the golden standard, and the other ones are just playing off of that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
100%. Man. So, I guess books as a medium still a good way for your imagination. I mean, it was referenced earlier, but Eric said that books to him isn't like a very strong medium to get stuff across. But like I guess also at the same time, like, you know, some people it takes like visual things for that to happen to them. I think the last time I actively did something with a book was the rapper Logic's Supermarket because also does the audiobook for it, which is just one of the greatest things to hear because his character is so pompous and so full of himself. It's obnoxious, and just hearing him read it out loud just puts my brain into like seeing Logic because his character works in a supermarket trying to get information about how he needs to write a crime novel about a person who works in a supermarket, and just seeing Logic as his character standing in a supermarket telling somebody about how this job's dead end and people need to figure out how to do things better for themselves. I was like, what the heck? It was great.
Right.
I didn't know that he wrote a novel.
Yes, and it's kind of bad. Depending on who you hear from. I enjoy it because think about you talking to like your cousin, your teenage cousin who has a bunch of nihilism in themselves and think that they know everything about the world, and then make that into a book.
Oh.
Because the whole thing is his character writes books and he then works at a supermarket, but like his whole character kind of arc, I've only listened to the first 5 chapters, feels like his character looks down at all the people he works with because he's just there to get information because he's already got like a fat stack paycheck advance so he could live in his own apartment or whatever to write his book anyways.
Oh.
Just like what the heck. But
Yeah.
he also released an album for it, which people claim is his worst album ever. Because there's a song that goes, "Pretty young girl, doing pretty young things, pulling at my heartstrings."
Oh, okay.
And
Well,
people
that did
like,
sound pretty bad. I don't know if that's just your rendition or not, though.
oh, I will find that song. You can listen to it later.
Oh,
Is
okay.
it like country genre?
It's like, just well, I can't. That just breaks the podcast. But just go find it. I'll link it
Okay.
to you. I'll link it to you after the podcast. The very specific song that I'm referencing because my girlfriend hates it, and it's like him trying. Like it has a little bit of rap, but it's him trying to do a bunch of other genres that just seems to stick in his wheelhouse.
Mm. Okay. Interesting.
Only a little bit.
Yeah.
So the other topic, which doesn't actually make sense to this, but the other topic was okay, you're just yourself, a normal person living in some type of supernatural, some type of world that has creatures not of human variety. Which one would be the safest? Example, I think around Avengers Endgame when Thanos snaps, he's only getting rid of half of the world. You got a 50-50 chance of surviving, and then he leaves the planet alone. So I think that's fine.
But what about like just the whole universe as a context? Like a lot of people get messed up in that universe, right? Because you got to think of like all the buildings Holt's ever smashed that had people in it and
Yeah,
everything
but
else. Like
it
it's not
feels
just that one event. You got to think of the universe.
But it also feels like they only like because you only can really base them off movies and even the comic books, they're only like most of the time they're only in the really, really big cities. So as long as you avoid big cities, you pretty much don't have to deal with anything until like it's a like cosmic level event. I mean, if it's not a cosmic level event, it's usually only like New York or California
Right.
that's getting messed up constantly.
It's why you question the fact why are there normal human citizens in Gotham? Like you just don't go to Gotham. You'll be all right.
But
Exactly.
that's where the big money's being made. You know what I'm saying?
Or you get murdered by psychopaths on a regular basis.
And they probably pay you like
Do I get hazard
$50
pay
an
for
hour.
scarecrow gas in the city? Is that a thing?
Yeah, like like there was
Is that
a
covered
what was
by
that,
my
a Hulu
insurance
show?
though?
Wasn't there a Hulu show, Grant? Correct me. That
Yes,
was
it was
like
called.
normal
Oh, I
people
missed
trying to
that
survive.
show. So
Yeah,
yes, there was a Hulu show called Powerless, and the main character is Vanessa Hudgens, and basically it
G for
was
Vanessa.
Wayne. It was Bruce Wayne's cousin owned a company that produced items that that were supposed to protect you from superhero level events. So like I think one of them was wearing a raincoat that had protective abilities. So like if rubble from the sky, no, it was either a raincoat or umbrella that had protective
It was
abilities.
an umbrella.
Oh, and that prevented you from taking damage from rebel from the sky, stuff like that.
Huh.
Wasn't there a show too where it's like the cleanup crews of like people who came in and had to clean up after that?
I don't know. I only
No
knew
clue.
about
I feel
Powerless
like there
that
was
didn't
one
even
about
last that long, which makes me really, really sad. It's a good show. It's
I'll
quirky.
have to check it out.
People disagreed.
I mean, that is the honest truth.
People disagree about a lot.
Yeah, just look at Battleborn.
Firefly.
Oh, Brown, no. You can't just say that, Eric. It hurts my feelers.
Well, so is Battleborn.
At the same time, like, why like superheroes, like, if superheroes know that all the major fights happen in major cities, why don't they just go? I mean, I guess because there's such a major populace there, they have to be there. But like, it seems like superheroes feed supervillains. So why don't you just go chill in Midwest nowhere and not bother nobody, and they don't have to deal with anything unless there's a cosmic event, and then you pop up, finish it off, and then you go back to hiding somewhere in the Midwest where there ain't gonna be any major things happening.
Yeah, I had that exact same thought. 'Cause, like, I don't see why it's pertinent that they have a fight in somewhere like New York City with villains. Why couldn't they just have it in, like, a big open field where
Well,
nobody's
Because that's
in
where
the
the
way?
villains are.
Yeah, I was about to
Villains
say,
are in
the villains
city.
ain't going to the middle of North Dakota to go fight in like a cornfield. That ain't
No,
gonna happen. What are
see,
they
like,
doing
why
out
would they
there?
go?
They usually
The-
want money.
Like, Thanos, who came from, like, a different planet, right? He would've just popped up where. No, I guess not.
Well, he popped up where the things he needed were.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, even his people who like showed up in like New York near like Spider-Man and like Doctor Strange and all that, they were there because Doctor Strange is there. They needed the time stone from him.
Yeah.
Therefore, why didn't Doctor Strange go not chill in Manhattan, get a
Well-
house out in
well,
Idaho,
Because that's his home.
get a
Because-
house out in?
Well,
Cosmic
he's
House.
got a little bit of hubris because that building does connect to like several other locations on the
Oh.
planet.
Oh, okay, never mind. I don't know enough about Doctor Strange to be able to say, well, why don't he get a house out in New Jersey and then commute into the city?
Well, that house exists in like several locations at the same time.
Oh,
So that's kind of like a bummer, but like once they go in, you see him teleport the one guy out into. Is that what happens? He teleports one of the guys out into like a snow-covered place or something like that.
And he
like
cuts
that?
off his hand or whatever.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, but he didn't do that to Thanos, which everyone was quite upset about.
Well, you can't just kill.
They
the
showed
main
him do it in the
villain.
first one, but not do it to the one time it really mattered.
Because we all know it's easy to kill people, but you gotta make the runtime last long. Okay.
true stuff.
Just portal inside Thanos' stomach, fill up with sand, and he's dead.
Doctor Strange classic from Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. Just
Turn
turn
him
your
into
enemies in.
boxes.
Yeah, turn them into a a
Well-
wooden crate, and then they're just dead.
I mean, Doctor Strange did say there was like only one version of this reality where they win, so you know.
But that was after they got into the fight and were in outer space.
Oh, man, I think the coolest fight was when he beat up Hulk in the first film, and then Hulk was too scared the rest of the film to even come out.
Smells like
that was
bitch
great.
in there.
There are a lot of good memes off of that one.
I mean, yeah.
You know, how could
Didn't
you
want
like
those hands.
have what supposedly one of the strongest creatures ever not want to come back out and get around to in? That's
I mean, that's kind of like they were going for. That's kind of like the personality of the Hulk, is he just spent all this time on like a planet too? Because you got to think this is after he gets back from.
Oh,
was
yeah.
it Thor Ragnarok?
mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, so he just spent all this time on a planet being the Hulkster and like undefeated arena champion. And they kind of make it so like the Hulk's not super intelligent, but he is like super prideful. So it kind of goes off of that. Like, I just spent all this time being the man, and now all of a sudden this dude showed up and wrecked me real easy. Like, kind of don't want to deal with that.
So does
I
anyone
thought the pride would make him want to like fight him
again?
more.
No,
to get his pride back.
different version of pride.
Mm.
So does anyone think it's weird that we're getting the Black Widow film after the end of everything? Like,
Oh
I
yeah,
get
it's a prequel though.
Yeah.
it's a prequel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's her origin story.
Oh, I thought this was supposed to be like the branching between the 3.5 into Phase 4. That's what I thought it was supposed to be.
No,
I mean, it might, but it is like talking about her time in the Red Room, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and it has her sister in it too.
Yeah. So there might be like a little bit of
How did this happen? How did they end up doing this after like all the major events? Just seems odd.
because phase 3 is like where everything was, and they're like phase 4, we gotta put some content out. But who knows? This might all work out to be some great big thing. Like
Well,
when we first got
they got to figure out what they're doing anyway, because some of the actors, like, I mean, they killed off most of the actors who really don't want to be there, but you have to think about, like, okay, we're losing these major characters. Are we trying to turn someone else into major characters? And like, are the people that we have currently willing to stick in it for the long run to be in how many different movies?
I honestly think unless I mean, I guess you also gotta like. I was gonna be like, well, they want the money, but I realized, at the same time, these people are actors. To be able to
Right.
play different roles is one of their like major things for becoming actors. The ability to play in different roles.
Well,
Therefore,
also,
I was just gonna say,
uh,
therefore, why, like, even though you can spend like 10 years making that big Marvel money because you pretty much are stuck in a role that you're willing to keep constantly, like, is it worth it for that money?
well, and to that point, well, you say it for the money, but at that point, they've already made it. And I'm not saying it's like enough they'll never have to work again, but most of them aren't hurting for money and are at a point of fame where it's like you get to pick what you're doing.
That is true.
Right, and if you're just
Like,
tired of it, then it's not about, like
Yeah, but I'm also pretty sure all these people who had or like, because I'm pretty sure Marvel knows what the next like decade worth of films are going to be, or the next 5 years worth of films are going to be. So they probably got to at least like have to sign a contract saying, "Oh, you stuck with us for 5 years. Like you're not like you
right.
during the downtime you can try and fit in a film, but if that film like conflicts with what we're doing, don't."
Oh yeah, for sure. They definitely do that with like people.
yeah.
Like, I'm not sure. Like, what is it, Chris Pratt? I'm not really sure he's got a lot going on besides Guardians, but like he was doing multiple things there for a while,
Yeah.
and but like he's definitely has to like they signed a contract with him for a set amount of films.
Yeah. That was always like the joke I would say. Like if I ever became an actor, like I'm getting into a superhero film. That's the only thing I want to do because, no matter what, I'll at least have work for the next 5 years as long as my movie does good.
Mm.
right.
you know, like I think I could be I
Next,
really like I really wish they would bring Static Shock to the silver screen. Like he think he's a cool enough character to be up there. I think he might be able to have a standalone film, especially because you have all that nostalgia. I want to see a Static Shock
nah,
film.
we got Black Lightning. You see how that went.
But Black Lightning was a Netflix show, right?
Yeah,
That I haven't never even touched.
and it
Yeah,
And,
so,
me
and
either.
it is pretty much like adult Static Shock.
well, it took on a lot more serious issues that were like culturally like relevant at the time and things like that too.
Mhm.
Look, all I'm saying is I'm still mad that Disney Plus like showed up and then prevented Netflix from finishing any of their Marvel shows. Like Luke Cage hit that point. Like you had Luke Cage, you had Daredevil, you had Punisher, you had the Defenders, you had
Iron Fist.
Jessica Jones, and then Iron Fist. That's 6 different TV shows that got wiped from existence because Disney and I guess Netflix couldn't come to a good thing, or Disney was like, "Hey, we want our characters back, so you got to cancel all your shows."
That's right.
Oh yeah, it's kind of
I,
kind of the crux whenever you're in a
On the
situation where
license.
you're all using. I mean, Disney owns it now, but all using other characters and trying to figure out, especially whenever they're in the movie franchise, having to keep it relevant, and everybody wants to see their character up on the big screen.
you
But you got
know,
to be careful what you wish for. You'll end up with a real Green Lantern scenario.
I'm just kind of hoping that that's not the last time we get to see any of those characters because all those people, all those actors did very well in their roles. So I really hope that that's not the last time we see them. You know, um, Luke Cage especially, and I'm really mad because it ended with him becoming like the new kingpin of the cities. Spoiler, the show's been out for two
Man,
years,
Grant,
but he
how
Well,
like
you
I don't
gonna
think
just
that's how you
ruin
say
the
spoilers.
Well,
Just ruined
oh
season
my
2.
goodness. Oh my goodness.
Don't worry about it. Keep going.
So he becomes the kingpin of the city, and then the show ends, and then you don't know what he gets. You don't know, like, was he gonna be on a power trip? You don't get to see the morality of any of it. It's just ended, and I'm just like, man, I kind of want to know what happened. It's kind of like Panty and Stocking that happened like almost a decade and a half ago, and his sister became evil, and we never get to know what the season 2 would have been.
Well, I mean, that happens to quite a few shows though, where you end up with a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. Firefly,
Well, look,
and they even got an
tomorrow
extra
we're going
movie
to be
tossed on the
Futurama.
end, and it still doesn't answer all the questions that you have. In fact, it opens up quite a bit more.
Start to be as good as Futurama, man. Like
The perfect loop.
perfect
Oh
ending.
my
It's like, and it
gosh.
loops. There you go.
It's such a great ending. Like, I don't.
Futurama is the only fictional world where I want to be a normal person in.
That's true. But I mean, I think Futurama is pretty much one of the only few shows in like recent memory that I have that pretty much had like the best send off to the show. The fact that the show had such like a troubled upbringing, like it got canceled multiple times, got moved to multiple different networks, and but still was able to survive to have like a very solid ending is pretty dope.
Had to
Except
want it.
except the Simpsons and Family Guy, how they still around. Kind of impressive. Sad at the same time though.
All right. When's the last time you watched the Simpsons episode, Grant?
I actually keep up with every episode of The Simpsons.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I actually watched the animation domination block. I don't know if it's still called that, but it's that whole like little block where they have because I have Hulu. So I just every Monday I just wake up and just watch every episode. So yeah, I keep up with all the episodes.
I don't know.
Um
I guess I just aged out of it because
yeah,
I started watching them maybe like season 20 something. It just didn't hit like it used to.
look, I'm not rest assured it's not a good show. Simpsons is not a good show in any rank or form. It's pretty average currently. The last episode I remember watching was that they got money for a new school, and all the smart kids got to do coding while all the dumb kids played virtual reality games. And then Lisa found out that the virtual reality games were just side economy gig jobs, but done in virtual reality. And then she like forms the people that, oh, the system's bad. And then there's supposedly some AI machine, because I'm vague with this episode. There's an AI machine that explains the only type of jobs in the future are going to be elderly care because everything's going to be automated. So the only
Yeah,
thing left is going to be elderly care.
yeah, makes sense to me.
It kind of does.
Mhm.
I mean, eventually we'll get to things being automated, and then you just
Things
have to.
are, but not everything.
Well,
Some things
most
are
of it.
difficult.
Look, until
Making
until
art's difficult to
whoa,
automate.
I'm saying
Well,
no.
is it? Did you watch what is it?
No,
Love, Death, and Robots.
nah.
Oh,
That
the
one
blue
that
square.
yeah, the blue
Someone,
square, my boy.
someone made that robot, and art's dumb.
Okay. All I'm saying
Okay.
is life ain't
Solid.
animated. I mean, life isn't automated until I can walk into a restaurant, press a button, get my food and pay with my card and walk out. That life ain't automated until that happens.
Man,
Does a
we getting there. Amazon's got a
person
whole grocery
Yeah.
store.
does a person have to make your food, or do you want like a robot to actually
Yeah.
like
I
just
definitely
materialize everything?
well, like you can go into McDonald's now and you just press a button and then
You know, we've
do
been
you
into a McDonald's and you don't even talk to a person at a cash register. You walk up to
Yeah.
a giant board, click in your order digitally, pay with a card, and then just wait for them to hand it to you.
Yeah, well,
And the Panera at our local hospital, they have the same setup.
I'm just hoping those boards are clean because I don't trust
I mean, a lot of
McDonald's.
places now
if you
it's
put
just like you can just order online and then just pick it up,
That's
which is
true, but
pretty much automatic.
I'm saying full automation. Until there isn't like a person in there that I have to like even see eye to eye.
I
then
mean,
they
Yeah,
ain't
but
automated.
we don't
we-
really want to wish for that though, because then a lot of people don't have jobs.
no, you do wish for it,
Nah.
but you have to wish for the mass automation of everything at the same time to make a utopian society. But that won't happen because of people.
Oh,
You gotta
what,
hope
just
for a Star Trek ending where everything's automated, so all anyone actually does for a living is try to pursue their dreams.
I mean, technically, isn't that what this quarantine's supposed to allow? But it's not.
I can't go outside, so I can't pursue my dreams, Grant.
What is
do
your
you mean?
dream?
This
Eric,
quarantine
what
is to
is your
stop you from
dream?
getting and spreading the illness.
But I don't even have the
The
illness.
government
How can I
stipends in
spread
like
it?
Sweden that just they give you money literally to pursue your hobbies. That
Look,
is
hopefully we get that $2,000 a month that people are
for
trying to
6
say.
months.
Yeah,
That'd be
Oh,
wonderful.
Or
God.
like
look,
Saudi Arabia, and then it's like refugee slave labor, and you get an oil check.
what the
Axel out of
what?
nowhere. Welcome to the podcast.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Just had to throw that out there.
Okay. Yeah. What? Yeah, $2,000 a month checks that allow us to live out, to do our dreams and whatnot, just from the comfort and confine of our homes because we're stuck here.
That'd be great, especially because I'm lucky enough to be an essential worker, so they can go ahead and send that over and I can buy me a car.
Just imagine,
It'd
I get
probably
that,
be like make some restrictions. Like if
I
you're
get
still
that
working.
$2,000 check, and then I buy everybody in the podcast microphones, so then we can all sound silky smooth from our own representative homes.
Wow.
That's right.
Grant says my microphone's garbage.
Yeah, all your
Well,
microphones are
is
garbage.
it? Isn't
Well,
it?
it is, but I don't like it when other people point it out. It makes it sensitive.
Oh,
I don't think the microphone has feelings.
My microphone is sentient. I forgot to mention.
Oh snap! Told
okay.
to get some better beats and make some better rhymes.
Better rhymes and maybe some better beats. So, we are getting near the end of our podcast. I wanted to do something a little bit different. If you have any recommendations for any things that you're watching, viewing, let's do that before we do closing statements. Because I watched a different podcast recently and they did that because it was based on books and movies that they were talking about. So, why don't we do the same thing? Let's go down the list.
Do you have a specific listing? Do you want a book or a movie or a podcast? Or just anything that we suggest?
I mean, either or. Whatever makes your heart flutter and soar with the Chex Mix of your mind.
What's the rating on this podcast again?
The what? Don't
Check
you
out
dare,
Eric's favorite
don't you
Pornhub
dare.
video.
No, don't you dare.
It got his heart going this
I'm
today.
gonna bleep
It
it
is a
out. Don't
cardio
you dare do
workout
it.
when you have. Okay.
All right, go first. Then.
Premium's free though.
Oh my god.
God, man, he's putting him on game, Grant.
Oh
They're
no.
like, stay home. Here you go.
Okay. So what do you got for us, boss?
Which one's boss?
I know,
Eric's
right?
boss. Eric's
Oh,
boss.
I'm the boss. I'm never the boss.
You're
I
boss
call
right now,
everyone
boss. You're the boss
Oh
right
my
now,
God.
boss.
Let me tell you about a little game called Danganronpa V3, Killing Harmony. Being able to reconnect on that visual novel / detective mystery game is the best thing that happened since the quarantine. Just a nice, like, weird pseudo high school setting where you're trapped and the only way to leave is to kill one of your classmates. And your job is to figure out who killed who. And that is just so good how it's written. That's my recommendation if you have
Nice.
a PS4 or a PS Vita.
Okay.
Long live Vita.
Blacko.
You say me?
Yep, you.
I'm gonna go and suggest the podcast "My Brother and Me" by the famous McElroy brothers. It's a comedy advice podcast that's super funny. They do a couple other things, but that's the one I'm on right now, and very recommended. Very lighthearted on a lot of issues, but give real advice on occasion. Keeps me laughing at awkward times in public, at work.
Nice. Alexis.
I'm gonna recommend Mrs. America on Hulu,
Ooh.
which is a new one, or newer one. I'm not sure if it's coming on. It's like their partnership with FX, so I'm not sure if it's coming on TV and then it's coming on to Hulu, or if it's just specifically on Hulu. But it follows the feminist movement in the 70s with the Equal Rights Act. And it's kind of both sides of the women who are fighting against it and the women who are fighting for it.
Oh, that actually sounds really interesting. I might have to
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Okay, well, I have two things. I found a podcast 2 days ago called Dungeons and Daddies.
Oh yeah.
Asterisk, not a BDM podcast. It's a D&D
Oh.
podcast where it's Freddie Wong. He's a YouTube creator. I don't know the rest of the people on it, but
Is he from Wong Fu Productions?
maybe he collaborated with them, but I don't think he was Rocket Jump. He did a bunch of like VFX videos and whatnot.
Okay.
But the whole concept of this podcast is him and his 4 other friends. Their characters are dads who get sent to a D&D world and have lost their children and now have to find their children. And my favorite thing as of listening to the first 2 podcasts is there's a lot of dad on dad kissing, and somebody ran over a enemy with a minivan. I think it was a Honda Odyssey to be specific.
Nice.
And then the other thing is a HBO show. An HBO show called Avenue 5, which stars Hugh Laurie, House, and he plays a.
Did you call him Shoe Laurie?
No, I said
Pretty
Hugh.
much.
Hugh.
No, he said
No,
shoe.
you said
but
shoe,
okay.
my
Did
man.
I?
Yes.
Oh, well, you know what? This is being recorded. I'll go back and listen to it, or I'll edit in Hugh Laurie so no one can make fun of me.
All right, but if you edit something out in this podcast, I demand you do it in a robotic tone. If you go in and edit something, I just need you to be like, Hugh Laurie.
Actually, this software I'm using does allow it to do that, so I might just do that as a funny. Hugh Laurie, the main character from House, he plays a ship captain and on a space cruise ship. Everything goes awry, and he like breaks like accent constantly. So part of the show he's talking in an American accent, and part of the show he's talking in a British accent, and it's just funny to watch him go back and forth. It's honestly really impressive that people can like switch accents pretty much on the fly. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
On a random side note, since you did 2 real quick, and just to keep with that daddy theme, the McElroy brothers also do another podcast called The Adventure Zone, which is their D&D podcast that they do as a family. And they do have a special episode. It was one of their live shows that they did, and it was Enter the Dadlands. So it was a post-apocalyptic civilization where everybody that was still alive was dads. So you had the sports dads, the car dads, the theater dads, and such, and it was super hilarious. So if you need a chuckle, I highly recommend.
Oh man! All right, this is the end of the podcast.
This is the end of our podcast recommendation podcast.
Yes, this is the end of the recommendations. Now we're gonna do closing statements. I just want to go first because I normally go last. I don't even know. I don't even actually know. But I appreciate the people coming on and doing this, because unless this thing pops off, these are just going out into the ether to be disappeared. The dark.
The way I like my content.
I'll project it into space and it can just be forever.
Yep. But at the end of the day, I like talking about random topics because it keeps my mind sane, and in these trying and difficult times, just being able to come on here and have conversations about whatever with my friends, even when like the topics are sometimes a little bit out there, because like I'm like, what am we supposed to be talking about? I don't know. So I appreciate you all, and if anyone listens or got this far, I appreciate you for sticking out with us. Okay, this is where someone else goes. Anybody?
Really need to set an order for this.
Maybe.
I just recommend that everyone takes this extra free time that we all have and start up a new hobby that you've been putting off, or start reading a book, or things like that.
I would like to tell everybody some places may be coming off of the stay-at-home orders. That doesn't mean you don't need to be safe, and even if you're not being safe for you, be safe for other people.
This was recorded in April 19th. This is gonna go up like 3 to 4.
Coronavirus!
This is gonna go up like
Coronavirus!
3 to 4 weeks later. So I don't know what the world's gonna be up, but this was recorded Sunday the 19th.
That was
Just
my
for
Nicki
people to know.
Minaj coronavirus impression.
Okay,
Thank you.
Eric, please go.
You're welcome. I'm back on the topic of the date. Well, tomorrow for us is 420. So, if you're only smoking on 420, you got some issues, but be safe.
And that is the end of our podcast. This has been I'm Losing My Mind and So Should You, episode 6. Once again, appreciative of all my co-hosts and the people that listen to you. I love you all the most. And we are out. Bye-bye.
Boy.
Boy.
Adios.